The last video, we gave an overview of how to apply to universities in Canada, what is required. Now, we are going to give an overview of how to come to Canada as an international student. First and foremost, we suggest that when you're applying to universities, apply to a number of universities. Choose 4 or 5. However, this will cost you a little bit because you are looking at about 250 Canadian dollars to apply to one. This fee is as last year because, as I said in the other video, things have been going up a little bit in Canada, especially the foodstuffs due to inflation. And also universities have been increasing their tuition fees. And subsequently, they also increased the fees associated with applying to universities. 250 Canadian dollars is about 195. Our dollar fluctuates around 72 to 75 cents US. That means 1 Canadian dollar is equal to about between 72 and 75 US range. It's about 195 US. Once you've been accepted by the school, you get a letter of acceptance. You need to apply for a study permit, the government of Canada, from the Immigration Canada. You apply for it at the embassy. Mostly you apply online in your country. You might not have the Canadian embassy in your country. Then you always travel to a nearby country where there is a Canadian embassy. They will guide you through. To apply for a study permit, you need acceptance letter, passport, and proof of funds adequate to stay in Canada. We don't want you to come here and be a destitute, live on the street. We want you to come here and be able to finance your studies and finance your living. Also, medical exams are required if you plan to stay in Canada for over 6 months. Most of the university degrees, they are over 6 months. There are cases, say, from certain countries, say from a Western nation, they might not necessarily require you to have medical exam. However, might be required. You are from a Western nation, but the last 2 years you were in these foreign countries where sanitary is a bit compromised and it's known to have these communicable diseases, these contagious diseases like tuberculosis, malaria. Then you might need to have a medical exam. If you plan to work in Canada where public health must be protected, and provide the embassy with an updated recent medical exam before you can be issued a study permit. In Quebec, a certificate of acceptance is required. Now that you have all this, you book an appointment to be fingerprinted. We need to know who you are, and we also need to take a photo of you. We need to take a picture of you before issue a study permit and let you into Canada. Once you have been approved for a study permit, you always have a start date. You cannot enter Canada before that date. In most cases, the study permit is not issued for the entire duration of your study. Say suppose you are coming to pursue engineering, which is obviously 4 years, and then you are not issued a study permit for 4 years. You have to renew it. The duration will be determined by the Immigration Canada. Whether you renew it, the rules change every now and then. You check with the embassy. And also you need to show that you have enough funds for your study, for the fees, protected account with 15,000 United States dollars aside. You need to show that you have this money. Every year when you renew, you have to show that you have this money in protected account in the $15,000. You need to show that you have 15,000 US at hand, which you can access liquid, not in stocks, not in bonds, but in a bank account. This amount, before we can let you into our country. We don't want people who come here and be tested. At the port of entry, immigration officials will verify the documents, including your medical exams. Say school starts in September. Your start date will be, say, 15th of October to 30th of April. You cannot come here before the 15th of October. They have to take into account that you need to arrange accommodation, you need a place to live, you need to talk to school before your study commences. They will not give you a study permit that starts right at the beginning of the semester. No. They will always give you a study permit that gives you a month or so ahead of the beginning of the school calendar. Now that you've entered Canada, you can choose accommodation either on campus or off campus. On campus, accommodation tends to be a bit expensive, and I remember when I was attending one of the local universities here, as I said in my other video, I didn't come as an international student. I didn't need the accommodation at school. I remember visiting one of the international students. The guy was some young man who was from Spain. The apartment on that campus, slightly bigger than a closet, was very small, and at that time was paying $1,000 for it. You could just fit like a small twin bed, that's it. And then there's a common kitchen with other students. I would suggest you live off campus. You can get like a 3-bedroom, depending on where you go. In Toronto, things tend to be a little bit expensive. In Vancouver as well. But say in other cities, say like in Montreal, not that very expensive. In Ottawa, it's not that expensive. You could choose to live off campus, especially if you can share the accommodation with other students. You get a 3-bedroom house, which might cost you like 2,000 Canadian dollars, which is roughly like 1,500 US. If this is a 3-bedroom house, you don't need 3-bedroom house. Young man, young lady, you share with other students. Say, in that case, you end up paying less. 3-bedroom, bigger living space, and also you have a living room, you have a dining room, you have a kitchen, big space to do all your luxuries. You are not restricted by these campus rules, because on campus there are rules which you have to abide to. After studies, the federal government can have you stay in Canada because you are young and you have knowledge of the culture, you have proficiency of the language, and you have Canadian qualifications. Or you can go back to your country of origin should you choose to. Coming to Canada as an international student, you have to make a budget for food, housing, transportation, and health insurance. Health insurance is normally included in your fees. I remember the school which I attended here, it's part of your tuition fees. And myself, I wasn't an international student though. I was working somewhere where they had health insurance for me. Now that I was covered, I didn't need the health insurance in my fees. It's mandatory that every student must have health insurance, whether international or local. It's by default, it's included for everybody. If now you don't need it, you will have to tell them. You have to go to the finance office. We used to go to the finance office and then tell the school that I already have a health insurance, and you have to produce a proof of it. You have to prove that you have it. And also you have to find out a little bit about scholarships. But scholarships, I've heard people ask me about scholarships when they are out there. Maybe there might be some humanitarian organizations that give scholarship to international students, but to the best of my knowledge, you have to look for scholarship as soon as you enter Canada, while you are now studying at the school. That's when you have to be applying. It's a bit hard to get full scholarship, but you can always get $500 here, $1,000 there, $250 there. It helps though. Say if you get like $1,000, now that $1,000 is not coming out of your pocket. You also have to work up to 20 hours per week during school semester. From September, final exams around December, and then you break for Christmas. And then around the first week of January, around the 7th, the 8th of January, come back for the winter semester. In April, we write for the final exams, end of the semester final exams, and then we break for summer, which is we have a break from May, June, July, August. Some international students, they fly back to their countries. Some stay and work. In summer, from May, you can work full-time. You can work full-time, 40 hours. The cost of university, as for last year, for international students is $27,000 US for the entire year. Now, apart from after you have paid this amount, you have to keep this amount handy. Money should always be in an account where that money is not touched. Right. For graduate student, it comes a bit cheaper. Graduate student, you tend to have grants from the school in most cases. It comes 16,000 US. That's the cost of international students. Education is a bit expensive. They say when education is expensive, try ignorance. This is the cost of university for international students. The fees for international students are different from local students. US which is roughly around, comes to about 10,000 American dollars per school year. That's for local, for Canadian students. For international, it's this 27,000, and also you need to keep this amount at hand. Also, might need to have some travel insurance when you're coming, and also have to find out about baggage when you're coming. Don't carry too much stuff. There are people who carry utensils. I remember when I was in school, I always used to hang around with these international students. Some of them from Spain, from Portugal, and there was also some students from Brazil came with luggage full of utensils. I said, well, why do you need this? Oh, my mom bought them for me. We sell them here at these discount stores, cheaper than the price you paid in your country. You don't need certain things. Like, try to limit the stuff which you bring in when you're coming, because there's always a limit. Like most of the airlines these days, it's 23 kgs for the large luggage, which you have to book in, and then the one which you carry inside is supposed to be 7 kgs. That's all. In total, you are allowed to bring in 30 kgs. Canada is officially metric system, made it metric back in 1973, when all the countries were switching over from imperial measuring system. There are only 3 countries to use imperial system: United States, Myanmar, and Liberia in Africa. Liberia, which is an extension of United States. Those are the only 3 countries that officially use. Now, because of our nearness to United States, here there is this going back and forth, pounds, yards, inches, but all over the world people use metric system, which are centimeters, meters, kilometers, and kilograms. Whereas the imperial system, which was then the old system, uses some inches, yards, miles, and pounds for measurements, and ounces. If you have made it so far, please subscribe to the channel, and also try and help with the process of coming to Canada as an international student. You can always contact, and then if you need information about a specific school, I can always collect it and see if I can either scan the documents, and mostly we will use electronic communication. Subscribe and communicate if you need any help. Let's say rules change for international students, particularly on postgraduate work permit, PGWP. There have been some rules change. Also, this amount here, which you need to have at hand, was increased recently. I can't remember the figure, but of course, I personally saw Mr. Fraser, who was the Minister of Immigration, and when we had Prime Minister Justin Trudeau talking at a press conference where he was announcing some rule changes. And also some of the rules changes is the number of study permits. They were decreased. I talked about in the immigration video. If you want to know about that, watch the immigration video. It talks about that, the numbers. Because they reduced the number of immigrants, the number of study permits. That means the number of students, international students, they can admit per year. They have reduced them because they were letting in too many. If you need to know anything more about what stuff which I talk about, feel free to comment, and then we can communicate direct. The rule change for international students for postgraduate work permit, English or French, and you must have passed it by over 70%. If you're a graduate from a Canadian schools, and you should have passed those English courses by 70%. The field of study, this postgraduate work permit, as long as you are going to work in your field. Also, from other universities, the language should be 70%. Field of study must be in a high demand in Canada. The field of study must be things like engineering, computer science, and computer related, not a degree in communication. Okay, let's move on. Students can work 24 hours per week, maximum, and also there is the end of flag polling for PGWP application. Flag polling involved temporarily leaving Canada and returning to secure the same-day immigration services at the border. This practice has been eliminated as to reduce inefficiency and to maintain or to enhance the integrity of the system. There is also termination of student direct stream, which expedite study permit processing for eligible students from specific countries. With the student direct streaming, there were certain countries, including Nigeria and a number of countries, whereby students, when they want to come to Canada to study, they will be expedited. The cases are processed faster than other countries. I wouldn't know the reasons the government had done that. Maybe it was based on the performance of those students in the past. Everybody will be treated with equality before the system. There will be no one who will be given this preferential treatment. They are not going to play favorites. They are going to treat everybody with equality. Open work permit being restricted. What used to happen is when you come in as a student, there are certain students who come in with their spouses, the wife or the husband. The wife is the one who is coming in as a student. The husband comes along with the wife. Now, those people in the past, they were given an open work permit. Now, that has been eliminated and has been open only to certain fields of study. The student must be enrolled in professional programs at universities only, such as master's or doctorate. For your wife, your husband, to get an open work permit, you, the student, you must be enrolled in a professional degree program at a university such as a master's or doctorate in the following field: in dental surgery, DDS and DMD, in jurist, doctor or bachelor of law, or medical doctor, or doctor of pharmacy, or doctor of nursing. Let me back off and explain clearly what used to happen in the past. Say a woman and her husband who is coming to study, say, engineering at McGill University in Montreal. On the application, of course, you state that spouse, if maybe some kids or 2 or 3 children with you, coming with you as you're coming to study. You prove that you have all the funds and you've done everything. You have applied to the school, they've accepted you, and you apply for the study permit yourself. The husband or the wife has to apply for a visa to enter Canada. An accompanying spouse of a student also has to do the fingerprints, has to be photographed and enter Canada together. In the past, the spouse, husband, or the wife used to be given automatically an open work permit. You can go work anywhere. You can go flip burgers at McDonald's, an open work permit, while the wife is in university, or while the husband is in university pursuing a 4-year degree, and the kids can go to school. They eliminated that open everybody out. That means if you are coming with your spouse to study engineering, your spouse will not get any open work permit while you are in school, but will get a restricted work permit. What the spouse do is they go and look for a job first, get a job, and then get the papers from whoever the employer and submit them to the immigration and apply for a work permit for a specific job. To move to another job, has to reapply another work permit. Now, which are the people who will be given open work permit? Open work permit will be given if the spouse who is the student is enrolled in these professional degrees at master's or doctorate level: dental surgery, Bachelor of Law, medical, doctor of pharmacy, or nurse. Only those professional degrees are their spouses to be given open work permit. Otherwise, the spouses will be given restricted work permit, which is specific to a particular job which the person has been offered. Also, another rule change is as 23rd of December 2024. Students will no longer apply for a study permit at Canadian port of entry. Study permits are only now applied online. They used to say as you enter Canada, you could apply for a study permit, but unfortunately, you can't do that anymore. You have to apply it online. Prior to you departing your country, you have to prove to the airlines that you have been accepted by the Canadian immigration. Otherwise, the airline that brings you, you'll be instructed to take you back to your country at their own cost, because you're becoming one-way ticket to Canada. You purchase a one-way ticket to Canada. These are the new rules. The school officially ends the 30th of April. However, you are free as soon as you finish writing your exams. But the school officially ends 30th of April. As soon as the school is done, I remember this young man who was from Spain. He used to go back to his mom. He'll be missing his parents. You want to go back to his parents. What they're saying, if you leave Canada on expired study permit, you have to wait there for approval. International students, they have to be greater aligned with Canada's labor markets. As I said, at the end of your study, the government of Canada can always offer you to stay in Canada because you are young, you have gone through your Canadian qualifications, you have an understanding of the Canadian culture. They can always ask you to stay. When I was in school here, I remember meeting a student who said his grandfather was from a country of origin. He came here as a student and he stayed as a young man, married, and their children, and one of those children was the father of this young man. I took a business course with him. What we're saying here, they are trying to align this international student, the courses which they take or the programs of that with the Canada's labor market, because certain international students, they end up staying in Canada. Also updated the postgraduate work permit eligibility for students to pursue occupations which are in demand. Updated the PGWP eligibility. This updated postgraduate work permit eligibility so that students can pursue programs which are in demand. This also increased oversight and fair determination of student direct streaming in Nigeria Express, increased oversight and fairness. The termination of SDS and the NSA, along with the new application process, reflect Canada's commitment to transparent and fair immigration system. So the termination of these expedited students, because as I said, certain students from certain countries give a preferential treatment that once they apply, their application will be expedited, will be processed quicker. But this has been terminated and the new application process has been reintroduced so as to reflect the Canada's commitment to transparency and a fair immigration system, so that it doesn't have an immigration system that gives preferential treatment to those or these, but it's an immigration system for everybody. Plan ahead to ensure that your program meets the updated PGWP eligibility criteria. As a young person, mostly you are not thinking much into the future. Like you have this attitude that it's a bridge I will cross when I come to it. You are already at the beginning of that bridge. You're already crossing it. Submit study permit extension online well in advance to avoid disruption. If it ends at the end of April, submit the applications before you leave so that they process it within those 4 months. Whichever country you go to, they will not let you come in unless you can prove that you have a valid study permit. You have to consult your education institution on matters of immigration. These universities, sometimes they can guide you through, they can advise you. They will not help you, but they can advise you on matters of immigration. Because, of course, they know stuff which is required if coming as an international student. There are offices that can help you, which you can ask, and they can always guide you. We thank you for watching. Just subscribe.